There is a direct correlation between your looks, your narcissism. There's also a direct correlation between the perks that you get and your looks. You're more likely to get away with doing something if you're tall and good looking as a male, and if you have money. Yeah. We know that a tall man is more likely to get attention from both genders, by the way, both men and women. Now, there is one difference, and that's in the LGBT community. There are some people who are domineering. They want someone who is going to shrink up. They want to be able to feel the power and the control in the relationship, and they will pick somebody smaller than them. Now, there was a lady, she calls herself Shoe on Head on YouTube, and she made a video about the loneliness epidemic with men. Well, let me explain to you why this is. How do women lose female friends? Nearly every time it's going to be over a boy. Nearly every time. Sometimes it's over the kids. Sometimes you have two women who are good friends and they just have a disagreement on how to raise kids. So you're not going to let your best friend babysit your kids, and you're not going to babysit their kids no more. Sometimes it's over talking trash. You know, you think things are all copacetic with you and your best friend. Now here's the majority of the time how it happens. A woman is going out with a tall, good-looking man, and he might even have a little bit of money, or the appearance of having a little bit of money. Now, this woman has talked up her boyfriend or her husband for fucking ever and a day to her best friend, right? She also does all of her bitching to her best friend. Her best friend knows everything about the dude, down to the size of his... well, you know. Now, mind you, this story played out with just one guy in Chapel, Nebraska 7 times. You and your best friend, you've been best friends for years. You've been dating this guy for a while, and yeah, he's showing signs of abuse. And the more he abuses you, the more you tell your friend about it, but also the more you shrink up, because your friend is supportive in this way. She says, oh, you should beat his vehicle with a baseball bat. Or she suggests shooting him. Or let's go this, let's go do that. Let's do the Dixie Chicks thing. 'Cause Earl had to die, na 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 na. The reality of it is, you break up with the guy, right? Let's say he beats you and you're done with that shit. You go to your best friend and she's going to help you out. Well, then your best friend moves in and she's messing around with your boyfriend. Or maybe you broke up with your boyfriend because he was cheating on you with some woman and you don't know who it is. And then you find out, well, it's your best friend. And instead of being angry at your best friend and your ex, primarily your best friend in that situation, that's the one who truly stabbed you in the back. That's your best friend, your confidant, your trusted adult. And she's betrayed that trust. Now she's in a relationship with your leftovers, with your table scraps. That's how you're going to say it, right? Your table scraps. You're done with him. And you're going to keep on telling yourself that and telling others that, but then you're going to eventually start feeling the anger about it. Once the numbness goes away, you start feeling the real emotional issues. That's a hard sting. Now, there's so many men in that situation. Now, your best friend and you know, that's the solid connection you thought you had. That was your confidant, your trusted adult. All these boys are just a bunch of peewees to you. The ones who help you move out of that guy's house. The ones who help you to move your belongings. The ones who are there so that your ex-best friend doesn't come out and start trying to pull out your hair. Or so that your ex-boyfriend doesn't beat the shit out of you for going back for your stuff and then call the cops because you're trespassing. Those guys are there to make sure that everything goes down in a civil fashion. They're there to make sure that the grunt labor is done. Here's primarily how it goes. You've got the smallest guy and the girl working together to put her stuff into the boxes. And the bigger guys come in and move the boxes and move any furniture that's hers. That's how you do it the most efficiently. She knows what's hers and what ain't. There will be a guy there to be present with her. He doesn't have to be huge. There's two of them, and there's also more people that are coming in and out and moving the stuff. So there's plenty of people there to keep the situation as safe as possible. Now, a lot of those guys are there to help just because they don't want somebody having to run the risk of being abused. Nobody's going to help a guy that way. Are you kidding me? Now, we get sent to all the services that only help women. Women tell us, oh, well, have you gone here? They helped me. Have you gone there? You helped me. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I have a dick. I have a penis. I grow mass quantities of facial hair and I have male pattern baldness. I'm a dude. How many of y'all have broken up with a guy only to find out a week later or 2 weeks later that he's messing around with your best friend? You were wondering why she wasn't calling you back. Or why when you were calling her up to tell her about what your ex was doing, she was doing the thing on the other end of the phone. But then you're angry. You're not going to blame it on all women. You're a woman. But you don't mind blaming it on men. Meanwhile, this woman, your best friend, she's going to get beaten by him too. And she might go back to him a few times, just like you did. And then one of her friends is going to do the same thing. Obviously, there's something about this guy that you like. Women keep going to him, even knowing his history of physically abusing women. 7 times with just one guy in Chapel, Nebraska. So we've got one abuser, and there's probably close to 100 men altogether between these 7 women who have gotten involved. And some of these women, like, it's Chapel, Nebraska. It's a small town. Sean Schwartz might have helped out 3 or 4 of these women. I did, by the way. Rory Jeffson might have helped out 3 or 4 of these women, and he did, by the way. These aren't situations where either one of us were there looking for a vagina. These are situations where somebody was in a desperate situation and needed help getting out of it. And that's what it came down to. Rory was a lot bigger of a mouth than I was. He hit me again. Well, why are you going back? Why do you keep going back? Every time you go back to him, I know that you're going to call me. and say, hey, I need help moving out again. Rory was pretty frank with that stuff. But he tried to say it lighthearted because he genuinely cared about human beings. Now here's the thing about this feller who assaulted all those women. All those women chose him, not the other way around. It takes two to tango. Those women were immoral. They were willing to throw away friendships for abuse. She wants what her friend has. But once she's got it, she's going to realize she don't want it anymore either. Meanwhile, there's probably 100 men involved in the situation, between helping them move, paying for a lot of the expenses. So many of us pitched our money to get a U-Haul, or to pay gas for somebody that we knew who had a truck. Now, although I've never signed my name for somebody else, I know a lot of men who have, so that a woman can get into an apartment. I know a lot of guys who put money down so that a woman who, she thought that that money was going to be going to the bills and her family, her husband, potentially. Now she doesn't have access to any of that money. She needs help moving out. A lot of people will throw down cash right there on the spot to help her out of that situation. A lot of her friends, a lot of her family. And there's also a lot of resources that she can go to ask for help, specifically geared towards helping women in domestic violence situations. We don't get that as men. We don't get that. When we have a lack of resources, we just get told to go all sorts of different places. A lot of women don't stop to recognize how many men they abused in that situation. When you go blaming all men because all 7 of you dated one guy, you chose to date him. How many guys helped you in that situation? And there were probably women who helped you out of the situation too. Women who said, hey, my husband will this and my husband will that. And those women volunteered their husbands to do things, to help you move. Hey, let's do it on Saturday. I'll have my husband help. And what does that new female best friend do? That's what she is at that point. She stands there as a stagnant meatball and makes a bunch of offhand rude comments trying to antagonize the situation. And the girl who's just trying to get her stuff moved is having to constantly say, hey, none of that. I'm not trying to have any problems here. We've seen these situations play out. Every one of us have seen these situations play out. It's always men's fault. 100 men in those situations. And let's go on the super conservative side. Let's say there was less than 10 men who helped out in each of those situations. Let's say there was only 50 men involved in helping out, whether it be physically, financially, doesn't matter. You shit on 100 different men. Because You dated a man who is a piece of shit. When you talk about how horrible men are, you are ignoring all of the men who helped you in your situation. And when you went back, and those men went back and helped you again and again. Take a look at Desiree Leonard. I don't believe for one moment that Desiree was abducted from my apartment in broad daylight, and all my shit got stolen in broad daylight the very same day. I don't believe for one moment that dude went all the way from Wyoming to Nebraska to abduct her to take her back to Cheyenne, Wyoming. I don't believe that for one moment. I believe that she tried to fence my stuff so that she could go back to where she had easy access to drugs. She knew where to get the drugs in Wyoming. She did not know where to get the drugs in Sidney, Nebraska. And I wasn't going to tell her. But I rescued her more than once. Now, am I the bad guy for rescuing her? No, I'm the bad guy for saying something about it. Funny how that works, isn't it? You do more to help your predators than you do to help the victims. And when you're victimized, you want other people to do something about it when you're not willing to do something about it. Well, I am willing to do something about it. In my situation and theirs, I am willing to speak up. I'm willing to go in with them. Those are the same things that I need. All these folks who say, oh, well, nobody went in with me, and I tell them, hey, I offered. I offered to take a look at your information and to go in with you. I don't ask people if they turned it into the cops. I ask them if they tried. Because I know the cops, if you're poor especially, or you're not good looking, that even goes for women. If you're a fat woman who's a little older in life, you got a pockmarked face because you had acne when you were younger, yeah, you might get treated the way that a poor man gets treated because you're not physically attractive to that officer. That's a very real possibility. There's a possibility that if you don't have all of your teeth, you might get treated like you're on meth. There's a possibility that if you have Tourette syndrome, you might get treated like you're on meth. There's a possibility that if you have been up all night in writhing pain and you go into the hospital because you're not of a specific look, you don't look rich or pretty, there's a possibility that you're going to get victimized by the hospital because they're going to treat you like you're a drug addict. They're going to want you to be in and out the door, and they will get a shitty fucking attitude with you to boot. Not okay. Now, why is it that we're blaming all men? How many men have helped you out of shitty situations? How many times? This one is called the male loneliness epidemic, and this one's an hour and 36 minutes long almost. It's called She's Right, the Male Loneliness Epidemic Reaction. And this black woman here, who sounds very whitewashed, are we allowed to use that word? Well, let's play this.
All right, guys, we have an interesting topic to talk about, and it's a viral video from Shoe on Head on YouTube, and it's discussing the idea of an epidemic of male loneliness. Now, I'm not a man; I'm not too accustomed to this subject matter, but we do have two men with us today. We're going to discuss this video at length, so let's get into it. Alright guys, welcome to the stream. Today we are going to be reacting to a video titled The Epidemic of Male Loneliness, or the Male Loneliness Epidemic, that was posted by Shoe on Head on YouTube. It's got 1.2 million views already, so I figured we're going to react to this. This is an issue, as I said, that I'm not too familiar with, but can recognize that there does seem to be a problem in today's day and age. I do have to introduce Taylor in Nashville.
Hey, can't wait to tell everybody how lonely we are. That's going to be exciting for Friday.
Yes, it is. And Cam in the producer's bay.
Hey, guys.
All right. So, let's get into this subject matter. Let's start watching the video and see how we feel.
I regret to inform you the men are not okay. That's right, folks. The men are not okay. The men have no friends, no girlfriend, no college education,
Sean
no
Head is
money,
funny.
are breaking their legs and inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their...
Yes, if you are a 5'4" millionaire, there are women who are going to step over you and pass you up still. And because you're short, you have to be worried that she's going to be out doing her bedroom acrobatics with somebody who is 6 foot tall, rippling muscles. So yeah, there's guys that are trying to make themselves more attractive by making themselves taller. Much like you try to make yourself more attractive by getting breast implants. That's not for men, that's for you. That's for you to attract the kind of man that you want. And the kind of man that you want is superficial. Obviously he's superficial if he cares about your silicone boobs. Same as you're superficial if you care about his height. When you put that makeup on, you are being just as superficial as that man who is trying to get, well, his legs lengthened so he's taller. Except that between the two, you can be ugly as sin. And the paint, to paint on a pretty face, is a lot cheaper for you than it is for that man to get metal rods inserted in his legs.
pornography addictions.
You deserve real love.
Turns out the society that was built by and allegedly for men has indeed let them down. Now you might be thinking, oh look, another boo-hoo poor men.
Society is never about men. Men are expendable to every society. We have seen this throughout history. We send men to the slaughter in mass quantities. We get to hear about chivalry all the time. Well, chivalry ain't what you think it is, first of all. But second of all, the idea of modern chivalry, that's a social contract. Treating you with respect is entirely dependent upon you. We don't owe it to you to treat you with respect. We don't owe it to you to buy you a Louis Vuitton bag. We don't owe you to take you out to a restaurant that's going to cost $200 a plate. It's a social contract. If you eat McDonald's on your own, and we've got that epidemic right now where a lot of young women don't know how to cook, but a lot of young men do. You'll eat McDonald's. You'll eat it every day. But would you go on a date with somebody to McDonald's? No, they're too cheap. What you're wanting is an upgrade. And an upgrade is expensive. You don't want to live on McDonald's. You want somebody else to pay a little more so that you can eat better food? Are you paying a little more so he can eat better food? Or she, because not all relationships this day and age are male-female. I fought hard for that to be accepted. And I still fight hard for that to be accepted. You lost your best friend because you were screwing around. You wanted that tall guy who had a little bit of money, or at least the illusion of having it. Or he come in Chapel, Nebraska. He come from a big family name, a good family name. What is a good family name? If you come from any of the surrounding farms, you have a good family name. Even if you're a horrible person, you have a good family name. Because you live out on a farm, you own farm property. Because you own that property, you get government subsidies. Your kids can drive the nicest trucks. Therefore, you're the most successful and must be the good people in town. If someone's poor, they must be on drugs, they must be mentally ill, and so on and so on. How did you lose your best friend? You wanted to do the whole grass is greener on the other side. I've known women who have literally moved into a man's house right after that man broke up with his girlfriend, who happened to be her best friend. I have known women who have done this, many women who have done this. Like, hey, you and your best friend were best friends a week ago, and now you are literally living in that house and sleeping in that man's bed. Have you told your best friend yet? How is it that in Chapel, Nebraska, everybody in town is aware before the person you just stabbed in the back? It's messed up. 80% of men, women in the United States think are ugly. 80% of us. The reality is, women don't like the top 5%, they like the top 2%. Meanwhile, when they're talking about those statistics, we're talking about dating. Those are the only statistics you guys keep. You don't care about friends. Friends don't matter in any relationship. Well, excuse me, says I, but they're the ones who bail your ass out. Not your boyfriend, not your girlfriend. When your boyfriend beats you up, he's not going to bail you out of the situation. When your girlfriend is screwing around with a whole bunch of other dudes, she's not going to help you out. When a man rapes you, he's not going to help you turn himself in. When a woman sexually assaults you, she's not going to help you turn herself in. Meanwhile, when you talk about how you're done with men, how men are horrible, and you're telling all of these guys that helped you out of a situation, you're telling all these guys how horrible men are. And then what's the first thing you do? You go out and hop on another Chad. You find yourself another asshole immediately. One that helps you to permeate the illusion that you got something better. when you didn't. When you want to do the comparison thing, oh, well, my new man is taller. Or my new man has more money. My new man has a bigger house. My new man has a nicer car. Do you not have any of your own merits to go off of? It's not men that are the problem. Men don't get to choose who you date. Women are in control of that. If a man asks you out and you say no, that's your choice. If a man asks you out and you say yes, that's your choice. If a man who you find unattractive approaches you to ask you out, he doesn't know if you find him attractive or not, but you assume that he should know his rightful place. He doesn't make $100,000 a year, or $500,000 a year, or $1 million a year. He's not 6'4". Why the hell would he think it's okay to come talk to you? How dare he? He's not 6'4". The guys who are doing the most for you are the ones you're kicking in the teeth the most. You're not going to date them. They're tools. They're for using and abusing when you want something. But when they have actual needs as well, because they're having to support themselves while trying to help you. Whereas you've had a free ride where you and the person that you were with for 6 months or a year or even several years, you were able to put your finances together. That reduces the cost of overhead. It reduces the amount that you're paying for rent every month. It reduces the amount that you are paying for utilities every month. It makes it easier for you to make your car payments. It makes it easier for you to save up a little bit of money. Now, of course, we got to pay attention to the fact here that inevitably something is going to happen to eat up that money. But on the bright side, when your car breaks down and the $800 that you've gotten to slowly trickle over the last 8 months, $100 a month you've been able to set aside. Well, now that your car's broken, you need that money. But thank goodness that money is there, right? You want it already made. You want the guy who's already got a house. You don't want to work together with somebody who's broke to get that. You ain't gonna date no broke man. Meanwhile, you broke. You are broke. Why don't you try working together with somebody instead of against them in a relationship? Also, stop focusing on the dating relationships exclusively. There are a lot of men that you have fucked over royally by not giving a shit about them unless you want them to move stuff or sign their name on something. Or you're wanting to piss off your boyfriend or your ex by hanging out with a bunch of guys and getting drunk. It sucks for us. We don't even have to give a shit about dating you. We're not allowed to say, hey, you know what, this is pretty fucked up that you keep doing this. I keep hearing you bitching about men. I also see how many men are bending over backwards to help you out every time you cry wolf. Now, this guy in Chapel, Nebraska, who beat on 7 different women that I know. No, I wasn't friends with all of them, but I was friends with at least 4 of them. And these women, when they leave him, they want to say stuff like, oh, I wish somebody would have told me he was like that. Holy shit, you knew he was like that. Your best friend dated him before you did. You knew he was like that. With many of these women, when they were telling me that they were dating the asshole, I was like, he gets controlling and he likes to beat on women. He'll also kick you out in the middle of a snowstorm without your phone and without your keys. That's his MO. Good luck. Did I say it like that, though? No, I didn't. I let them know with a note of concern. Hey, this is a situation that when you come to me for help, I'm not going to help you. But guess what? When they get beaten up again and they call me up, I still show up and help them. It's not men's fault that you throw yourselves en masse at dudes who are 6 foot tall. You know why you're so easy to throw away for that 6 foot tall guy? Because he's got options. You're not perfect. He'll discard you and try another. He'll keep trying you on like a pair of pants at the changing room until he finds a pair that fits. Yeah, the stuff that you can do to control the 80% of men that are considered ugly. That doesn't work on a dude who's attractive. On a guy who's ugly, he's just glad to be getting attention. He's just glad somebody talks to him. He's glad that he gets to feel useful. And you lead him on a little bit that he might get something sexual or some sort of relationship out of it. Just a little bit of hinting here and a little bit of hinting there, just enough to try to keep them interested. You don't need to do that. Why can't we just help you out of the kindness of our heart? Why you got to make it into something it ain't? Why do you got to mislead people intentionally? We didn't help you out for you to emotionally fuck with us. But then there's the guy who's 6 foot tall. You already know that he's a catch. If you don't hop on that dick, somebody else will. I don't know how many times I've heard women tell me that. Obviously not in those words, but, well, very similar. Women stating, yeah, if there's a guy who's 6 foot tall and attractive, he just broke up with his girlfriend or his wife. In that particular case, a lot of these women think that the sex seals the deal. And that guy, he already knows he's a catch. If he wants to have sex on the first night, you're going to let him, because if you don't, he's going to go out with somebody else tomorrow night and she will put out. And then you blame all men for this. No, you are giving these assholes options by saying yes, by wooning and swooning, and by throwing yourselves at them like $2 hookers. It's shameless. The same way you abuse the 80% of guys that you consider ugly. It is completely shameless. And your easy out is, oh, he just wanted sex. If you had any idea how many women tried to offer up sex because I helped them move out of an abusive man's house. And these women wanted to offer up sex as a thank you, and I had to explain to them, no. I'm not going to be your fucking rebound. I didn't come here to fuck you. I came here to get you safe. And I understand that many of y'all women only feel safe if you're in a relationship. You only feel safe if you have a boyfriend. If you have a male in your life that you can go to when things are getting rough, that will do physical things for you, like physically assault somebody, or physically fix your porch, or physically install the garage door opener, physically go to work to bring in a paycheck. A lot of women I know decided they wanted to try to date a man with a lot of money. Here's the thing about being a broke woman, trying to date a guy with a lot of money. If you're not fun, he'll go spend his money on someone who is. The moment you start becoming a drag because you want this and you want that, you're from the south side of the tracks, you never had no money, and now you want pretty things. He wants to have somebody in his life who is fun to be around. That's why marriage is no good for men. A lot of men say, you know what? My wife was so much fun to be around when we were dating. But as soon as we were married, she expected me to change into somebody that I'm not. She expected me to give her things that I didn't have to give. She had inhumane expectations of me as a husband, and she did not reciprocate any of the things that she expected out of me. Marriage is no good. It does not benefit the male ever. A lot of those women, as soon as they find a man who's 6 foot, 6'2", 6'4", that gives them a chance, a lot of them scare the guy off immediately because they're already looking for marriage. They're already wanting to talk to him about marriage in the first conversation. He's young, he's having fun, he's got hundreds of women throwing themselves at him. Why would he settle for you? Why would he settle down with you when he has so many options that he hasn't explored? I know a lot of women who are good looking, and they do that same thing. They have lots of options. And like Jackie Martindale said, hey, I'm young and I've got it. Why not enjoy it? I'm not going to be young and pretty forever. And Jackie Martindale's right. Someday she's going to get old and wrinkly. And maybe Botox will be cheaper by then. I hear it's gotten a lot cheaper than when it first came out. How did you lose your best friend? The reality is she was never your best friend. The reality is she's somebody who paid attention to you. She's somebody who said the things that you wanted to hear. She said those things because she was lonely for a friend, same as you were. Y'all tend to blame men for the things that you do. Those 6-foot men with money that you want to throw yourselves at, that you paint on your faces every day, hoping that you'll get that attention, more so than the next girl. You do the same thing for job interviews, don't you? You want to put on your makeup and make yourself look as pretty and presentable as possible, so that you might get that job instead of the next girl or the next guy, the next person on their list of applicants. When it comes to dating or going to the bar, you want to go in there and you want to look better than that lady who showed up in sweatpants and a hoodie. I've seen women who got pissed off because a man that they were attracted to was at the bar hanging out with his wife playing pool. Yes, that woman is getting more attention from that man than you are. That woman is his wife. I understand that you're dressed for success in a bar. I understand that when you walk into a bar and you're wearing a pleated miniskirt and you're wearing knee-high socks and you're wearing those nice little buckled shiny shoes and you're wearing that white dress shirt that you've got instead tied into a knot in the center so that it accentuates your bra. I understand that when you walk into a bar like that you are wanting the attention. The thing is, there were lots of guys giving that woman attention. The one guy that she gave a fuck about was the guy that wasn't paying her any attention, and that dumb little girl got into a fight with somebody and got her fucking ass whooped. Because she was jealous that a woman who had her hair in a ponytail and sweatpants and sneakers and a hoodie on, a loose-fitting hoodie, was talking with her husband. It was obvious that that man was there with the woman who was basically dressed like a scrub. That's what this girl, what we have to call her. Yeah, she was legally old enough to go to a bar, but she was dressing like an underage hooker, okay? The whole Catholic schoolgirl thing, you are literally trying to fit yourself into a sexual meme. This is the equivalent of going to a bar in a high school cheerleader's uniform. Do you think Kim Jepsen at 40 years old, 41 or 42 years old now, do you think that she is going into her closet, putting on her high school cheerleader's uniform, CHS, Chapel High School? You think she's putting that on and going down to the local bar to try to troll for men? No, the fuck she's not. At that point, the specific attention you are fighting for is sexual attention. That is the only reason to dress like that, is to cater to people who are attracted to that. You are trying to put on the illusion of being younger than you are. You are putting on the illusion of being underage, for Christ's sake. What kind of a man do you think you're really going to attract? And the 80% of the men in the room that you don't find attractive, a lot of times it comes down to you not getting that attention. You want the attention from the guy who's not giving it. You want to complain about men to all of the men who are not doing those things to you. There are lots of women who are interested in being with a guy who's just fun to be with. A lot of women I know later on in life married some guys who are not very fucking attractive. What's the most common reason for getting married later on in life to those guys who are not attractive? Because they're fun. A lot of these women spent their 20s and their 30s and part of their 40s messing around, trying to get that 6-foot-tall rich guy. When they did get a guy that was halfway decent, they started getting expectational and I want, and became an overwhelming burden to those men. But later on in life, when they were no longer pretty, when they had to start off at starting wage jobs, because many of them didn't get jobs. Many of them used their boyfriends or their husbands' money to try to start their own business from the house so they didn't have to leave. Most of those businesses flopped, but not all of them. Some of those women made decently successful businesses. But the thing is, in every one of those situations, there were men who were involved in helping those women. Every single one of them. Not once in my entire life have I ever seen 10 women show up to move a woman's stuff with a U-Haul. I've never seen it. I have definitely seen 10 to 20 men there to help a woman move out of a situation. Some of those women are just there to get their stuff. Some of them are there to start trouble. And a lot of times you can tell which ones are going to start trouble and which ones are there to get their stuff based on who they go and get. If they went to get Rory Jepsen, they weren't looking for any sort of bullshit. They just wanted their stuff. Now, of course, if you weren't interested in getting your stuff moved and you wanted somebody to start shit, there were plenty of people in town you could get to do that. Male loneliness epidemic? No, it's the 80% of us who are not considered attractive that you abuse the most, that you take it out on when your asshole doesn't want you anymore. See, just as you have your pick of the litter when it comes to those 80% of men who have absolutely nobody, who have been without anyone for the majority of their life, they never even got to play second fiddle to anybody. They were never even under consideration. Of course, by the time you hit your 50s or 60s, you either want to be alone or you want to be with somebody who is fun to be around. You don't want to be with somebody who's all mopey about everything. A lot of the women that I know that are in relationships, the failure of their relationship was that they always wanted to volunteer men to do stuff for them. They were constantly wanty about going and doing things that she's interested in. But anything that he's interested in, she's going to bitch at him nonstop about how it's childish for him to have interests other than her interests. When the guy that you can't say no to because he's so dreamy, yeah, you can't stand up to him, so you're going to come and take it out on us, the guys that you come to for help. When the asshole that you chose to date beats you again, or cheats on you again, or locks you out of the house without your car keys and without your phone. Male loneliness epidemic? No, it's not just a loneliness epidemic. You women reward the biggest assholes on the fucking planet. You are the reason that they're assholes. If you didn't continually reward the assholes, and you made them fucking work the way you make us work, just for a fake friendship. Now you can see the difference between somebody who's good looking and someone like myself in the conversations between me and Natalie Bollinger. She was my best friend because she was my only friend. People ignore me. When I said to Natalie, I'm just glad she pays attention to me, she said, don't say that. It makes her feel like I'm just entertainment. The reality is that's all I was to her. She was entertained by the abuse that I had to endure until there were actual consequences for her. Speaking up about being abused is not stalking. Asking your abusers to stop it is not stalking. Things that are considered stalking behaviors, I didn't exhibit any of them. I didn't ask who these people were with. I didn't ask where they were at. I didn't give a fuck. What I wanted was to be allowed to go see my friends and family without being fucking assaulted, without being threatened, without being physically abused. This fella here, who I was finally, after all these years, someone finally understood, yes, with a man when he's abused, he needs the same thing you do. That paperwork needs filled out, it needs turned in, and they can't do it alone. Men are more likely to be ignored than women. By a lot. This is why women are 11 times more likely to be stalkers, and men are between 6 and 26 times more likely to be arrested for it. We're not allowed to have a reaction to being stalked and abused, because any reaction we have is somehow magically abusive towards women. Speaking up is abusive towards women. Going to our friends for help turning in our predators is apparently abusive towards women. How the fuck? The guy you dated who told you no, and now you're running around telling everybody that he's a rapist. And now you're going to go, oh, men are horrible. Men are rapists. What about all the men who helped you out of that situation? How many of them raped you? You were raped by an asshole you chose to date. I can get behind that. But I for goddamn sure am not going to get behind this idea that every single man who helped you is a rapist because of the one man who did. None of these men who helped you out of that situation, not one of them put you in that situation. That guy you dated who raped you. He isn't men. Tim Beeson raped you. You take that shit out on Tim Beeson. Ted Bollinger raped you. You take that shit out on Ted Bollinger. Fucking Christ.